I'm Julie Comstock, and I'm going to show you how to use the new Cosmo Cricket Resist pen. This is a really fun product if you want to draw out your own resist. It's really great for scripts, for writing out people's names. This is the project that I did with it, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So not only will you get some instruction on the resist, but also some instruction on how I painted it with the watercolor and how I cleaned it up and made it look like this. Let's get started. Okay, so here I've got a Just Add Watercolor tag. So the tag itself is made with watercolor paper, and I am using the pen to draw out the design. I'll pump the pen on that scrap piece of paper to get the design to flow. It has one of those nibs like in a paint marker. So you just pump it up and down, the resist starts flowing, and then you can just draw out the design as you go. Okay, so I'm going to keep drawing out my design. I want to make sure that I don't touch it while it's wet. It takes about 5 minutes to dry. So I've sped up the film here so you guys don't have to watch me draw the whole thing. Okay, so now I'm just going to paint over the top of the design that I drew. And then I'm just going to use water to pull that dark color out. I've picked up a new color, a little turquoise. And I'm just keeping the whole thing very, very wet, trying not to get too dry of an edge so that I can have this blendy quality in the paint. You'll see here I'm going to pick up more water and blend the colors in as I go down. Next, I'm going to grab a little bit of that mint color on my palette. So where I'm keeping the edges all very wet, it just gives me a little extra time to blend and play with the color. It also helps the pigment roll off of the resist. So if the paint is too heavy and thick, it won't want to roll away from the resist. Here I'm just blending the color up a bit, filling in the rest of the tag. I have a plan. We're going to make the background dark, but right now I'm just blending the color out a bit. I'm going to go in and clear up some of the resist, and this will pull a little bit of color off the paper too where it's really wet, but it will clean up the resist quite a bit. Alternatively, you can let the paint dry and then go back in with a damp brush or even a Q-tip and more precisely pull the paint off the resist anywhere it didn't just roll off. Okay, now what I want to do is I really want to create some contrast. So I'm going to put down that brush and I'm going to grab a water brush. This will keep the paint wet as I'm working because there's a little bit of water flowing through at the same time. So I've got a really dark blue here. Oops, I ran over the resist. I just pulled that clean again. And then I can just blend that really dark blue out. So you'll see as I get up here to the bigger areas that this brush is a little bit small for the project that I'm working on, and it will start to leave some marks, some brush marks within the paint. It doesn't bother me on this project, and I really like some of the watermarks that you can get by dripping into wet watercolor. And this kind of has a watery underwater sort of look anyway, so I'm just going to go with it. You'll see here as I'm pulling it out, I'll start to get some of the brush marks left behind. So if I don't want that, then what I need to do is move up to a bigger brush. But I'm not going to worry about it. So the same thing over here, I'm just going to pull that dark color out. And it didn't spread as far as I wanted, so now I'm gonna add more. For some reason I can't tell till I look at it right side up, so that's why I keep rotating this around. Okay, so you can see the paint is still really quite wet. And here what I'm going to do is squeeze a little bit of the water from that water brush right down onto the surface. Right there. And you can see it's going to make the paint roll around where the water is. And that's going to give it some of that that water edge that you see in the dried finished piece, which I'll show in just a second. So, yep, I turned it right side up and I was like, wait a second, I want it a little darker down here. So just put in a little more of the deep tone. There we go. So that little area up by the gold is where the water has bled into the darker color. And I always love that effect. You can see it really well here.